about the interaction of supply and demand. Okay, sometimes price may go up, sometimes price may go down. But this one, this is equilibrium price. So we say P star and Q star. So when quantity supply equals quantity demanded, then you would have an equilibrium. So in the textbook, as we have assigned homework, so there are, let us say P is equal to A plus BQ, and then what else? Q is equal to C plus BQ, okay? Sorry. So this will be a supply function, okay? This will be a demand function. And so the way to solve it is to have, okay, here then you would have, okay, try this. So you have BQ is equal to P minus A, right? And then Q is equal to P over B minus A over B. So let me tell you about fraction. Fraction, usually in the US. So, Chiu Guanmin, how to read this in Mandarin? Read this in Mandarin. Excuse me? Yes. Fraction. Sorry. Fraction. How to read this in Mandarin? Yes. In the US, usually say A over B, A over B, okay? So I'm telling you about a homework. It should be very easy, okay? You have two variables, okay? And then you have two equations, okay? Two variable, two equations. So when from here you can solve Q, right? And when you solve for Q, then you can solve for B, okay? I'm just telling you, this is, the math for junior high school. So it should be easy. So there are questions like this in your homework, okay? So when the when the quantity demanded and the quantity supply is equal, then you get equilibrium. But sometimes, price may go up or go down, right? And so if price goes up a little bit, okay? So what happened? So here, okay, to B, this is quantity supply. Okay, if you look at a price, okay, and you want to know how much is the quantity supply, you check supply curve. So this is the quantity supply. And you want to know how much is demanded, then you check demand curve. So this is the price, and you get the quantity demanded. So what happened? You have a excess supply, or we call surplus. Okay, excess supply or surplus. And because there's just too much out there, so the price has a downward pressure, it will go down. Okay? If the price is too low, what you get? You get there are a lot more people want to buy. Okay, because the price is so low, a lot more people want to buy. But because the price is just too low, suppliers don't have profit. Few people want to supply. So here is the quantity supply. So what happened? You have shortage. If there's shortage, you're going to drive the price up. Okay? Then we're going to talk about two concepts. One is price floor. One is price ceiling. Okay? Price floor and price ceiling. Sueman, what is price floor? What's floor? Right, but I would like you to tell me what is floor. Yes, exactly, it is there, right? Floor. And then what's ceiling? Hong Dachen. What is ceiling? Well, sitting. Yes, exactly. Okay. You know, it is kind of ironic, okay? So what's the example for price floor and price ceiling? Okay, price floor, we are going to talk about a labor market. Okay, usually what do we have? The example is minimum wage. So you have labor supply, okay, you have demand for labor, okay? So basically, suppose the market is pretty wrong, then you get equilibrium wage, okay? And then equilibrium employment level. So we are talking about intervention. Because sometimes the government has some ideas about the market, and supposedly they're going to do something good for people. And in this case, they're going to do something good for labor. Okay? As you know, the more you earn, the better off you are, right? And so government want to guarantee a certain living standard for you. And the best way to do it is to give you a certain amount of money. Okay? So each hour you're gonna at least make certain amount of money so that you can keep a minimum living standard. And so here, as I say, the ironic part, if you want to have a price floor means it's very low, right? But if you want to have an effective price floor, it has to be above the equilibrium wage. Okay, let me put it down. For a price floor to be effective, okay, it has to be here. So why? So let us say if the market rate at this point is, let us say 160 hours, $160 per hour, okay? And if the government say we need to increase the living standard of people, it has to be above $160. The reason is quite simple. If the government say, okay, we want to have a price floor of $140, okay, does it work? It does not work, right? Because in the market, you can get $160. And the government say, you have to have $140 for you. It doesn't make sense, because in the market, you already get $160. So a price floor below the equilibrium wage, okay, a price floor below the equilibrium wage, it makes no sense. So for a price floor to be effective, it has to be above $160. So for example, the government say we're going to get a price, your wage rate going to be $180 per hour. So what will happen in the market? The market will, because this price is much higher than the equilibrium price, so a lot more people want to work. Okay, a lot more people want to work. So here is the quantity supply. That is A and B. But because this price is so high, you know, the employers, that's your boss, say this is too expensive. I don't want to hire that many people. And so here is the quantity demanding. So what happened? You have surplus of labor. Okay? The reason is that when the price goes up, more people want to work. Okay? But when price goes up, the boss want to hire fewer people, not more, okay, because the labor is just too expensive. So this is one of the example here of the price floor, okay? Let me give you one example, another example here. The case is about France. You know, French workers are really quite happy because, you know, basically they don't worry about pay, okay? What they worry about is that they need to have vacation. So for Taiwanese to go on protesting, demonstration, and French people to go on demonstration is totally different. French people want to have a higher pay and also free vacation. But Taiwanese, if they can get higher pay, that's good, right? And so, because of that, the unemployment rate is quite high. Because if there is, you know, no better income, no better wage rate, people just want to stay home. And so the unemployment rate is very high. And so, what happened? The president of France, he has a crazy idea. So Taiwanese people each week work for 40 hours, right? But French people each week work for 35 hours. And so the French president is very naive. So what's naive? Stupid. Okay? What's the idea? He said, okay, now people work for 35 hours. If I cut the minimum hours to work from 35 to 32, okay, what happened? There will be fewer people working, right? Because you used to work for 35 hours, and now you work only for 32 hours. What happened? There will be a reduction of 10% of labor supply, right? Because 3 hours is missing, okay? So basically, the president is thinking like this. People used to work for 35 hours. If now I say you only work for 32 hours, what happened? There will be shortage of labor about 10%, right? And because of that, the companies, the bosses, the employers necessarily will increase employment. They have to hire more people, right? Okay, can anyone tell me, after this policy, what really happened? Two choices. Employment goes up or employment goes down. Wang Yati. Okay? You get a story? People work for 35 hours. And the president said this is too much. If we cut the working hour from 35 to 32 because of the reduction in labor hour, what happened? There's a 10% shortage of labor. So the company have to hire more people to fit in the reduction in working hour, right? And so what happened? You have two choices. The first one is employment goes up. The other one, employment goes down. Which one? Chen Zishuan, you want to say something? Excuse me?
Can you say again?
Sure. Okay? In Taiwan, we have to work 40 hours, right? We have to work 40 hours. If the government say, now, starting now, you don't have to work 40 hours. You only work for 36 hours. Okay? Then tell me what will happen in the market. Employment goes up or employment goes down?
Goes up.
Why?
That's the working hour.
Exactly. Okay? So you see, the president of France is just so naive. He said, if we cut down the working hour for people, right, necessarily the bosses, the employers, the company have to hire 10% more people, right? But what happened is that it becomes more expensive. So they use more machine in supply for labor, right? To substitute for labor, okay? So this is the same thing. The government say we need to increase the living standard for people, right? For workers. And so we increase the wage rate, okay? You're gonna feel good. But what happened is that for the people, because the price is higher, people want to work more. But companies want to hire less. So who suffer? Workers suffer. Get it? Okay? So, we don't quite like intervention. Okay? We don't quite like intervention because the market is no longer free to work. So we say, let the free market work. And who will suffer? The one suffer is we have two kinds of labor. One is called skilled labor. Skilled labor. And the other one is unskilled labor. As you can tell, skilled labor can do a lot more work than unskilled labor. So in this case, minimum wage, according to a lot of economists and the market study, empirical study, unskilled labor suffer. And also because in Taiwan we have very simple society. We only have, we have just one race, right? But in the US you have African American, right? African American. And what do you have? You have Asian American. Asian American. And also you have Latino. What is Latino? What is Latino? Sorry, Zheng Yihan. What is Latino? No idea. 蔡文子, Latino. Excuse me? In one word, racial. Because you have people belong to different groups. The most advantaged people will be white, right? The white Caucasian. They have good education, right? They have good income, good family. And so necessarily they're gonna get more productive and they will be more likely to be skilled labor. And what about African American? A lot of people drop out. What's drop out? They cannot finish high school. They cannot get a college degree. So because of that, their productivity is lower, and so they get lower pay. So in this case, supposedly this policy going to increase the benefits for workers. But what happened? It ended up hurting those people, especially those people without proper skill. And if they lose the chance to get employed, then they don't get the benefit to learn on the job, okay, to learn the proper skill to do a good job. So anyway, this is price floor. Let's get to price ceiling. Price ceiling seldom happen in Taiwan, but it is very often happen in the US and also France and Great Britain. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, the example for that is rent control. So rent control, we use housing, okay, housing. And here will be rent, okay? Supply and demand. For this case, I believe you may have more sympathy toward the question because most likely you have encountered it. Okay, so let us say the housing you have to pay per month is $4,000. Sorry, 4,000. Is that right? 苏医生, do you live on campus or you live at home? Okay, you're lucky. Anyway, 庄国昭, where do you live?
租
You rent, right? You rent. How much you pay? Just tell me the rent. Forget about electricity, water, whatever.
2,900 per month.
2,900. You're lucky. Where is it? Anyway, let me put it 4,000, okay?
Okay.
Because you look at Taisuko, there's an apartment building, Taisuko, right? It's about right, okay? So let us say the government want to help you to get your degree faster and also cut your cost. And the government say, okay, you only have to pay 2,900, okay? Is that good? Is it good? It depends, right? Because at this lower price, a lot more people want to rent. So demand is here, right? The quantity demand is here. But what about the landlord? The landlord will say, sorry, the price that I want to get is 4,000 because I buy a house and put it on for rent. As a matter of fact, I want to make money out of it. That's my investment. And 2,900 is just too low. I don't want to put it out to rent. Okay, so what happened? The supplier, the quantity supply is so small, right? And so what happened? You have a shortage. Okay? But let us say, if the government want to be kind to you, and you offer a rent control of $5,000. Okay, if the government say we want to have a rent control at $5,000, does it work? Does it work? Wang Caiping, what happened in the market? The equilibrium price is $4,000 per month. Okay, and the government say we'll not be kind to students. Okay, help them out. So we set up a rent of $5,000. What will happen in the market? Will you rent it? Will you? No, right? Because in the market you can get it for 4,000. Why bother to have something that's 5,000? So that's the same thing here when I talk about the minimum wage. If you want to have an effective minimum wage, it has to be above the equilibrium wage. And if you want to have an effective rent control, it has to below the equilibrium rent. So for price floor to be effective, it has to be higher than the equilibrium price. For a price ceiling to be effective, it has to below. So I say it's kind of ironic or twisting, because price floor has to be high to be effective. Price ceiling has to be low to be effective. Okay? Okay, we probably are done with this. If I were in the US, I would have to talk a little bit more about, racial equality, all these issues. Latino is like Mexicans, people living in down south, like Mexico, Peru, Nicaragua, all these countries. And recently, there's a surge of Haitian because there's an earthquake. So a lot of people, they cannot survive, and they want to emigrate to the U.S., but they won't be able to get it because there's a cost there. Okay, let us try elasticity. Okay, finally we get to elasticity. Okay, elasticity is a measure. We want to measure what? A percentage change in price, and then to refer to what's going on in the quantity. So what we want to know is a percentage change in price and how much change in quantity. Okay? And so here, what is this? This is percentage change in quantity. Sorry. Change in quantity divided by quantity, and change in price divided by price. Some of you may not have learned calculus. So, 蔡小姐, have you learned calculus? No. So, anyway. So, for this change, actually we're going to use differentiate. So, this is dq over q and dp over p. So, what you get? dp and then p over q. Okay, let's look at what is a demand curve. Demand curve looks like this. Okay. Okay, so here is price, right? Here is price, here is quantity. First, we want to talk about this part. So what is this? First of all, we take any given point. Say this is point A, okay? And then here you have point B. Here is called rise. Here is called run, okay? Rise over run, okay? Rise over run. That is slope. Okay, slope is rise over run. So can anyone? 林玉雅, what is slope? Excuse me? Louder. Exactly. Okay. So here is rise over run. So what is this part? This part is change in price, right? This is price axis. So this is change in price, and this is change in quantity. So this is dp dq. Okay? So what is this? This is equal to 1 over slope and then p over q. So 1 over slope, it is called reciprocal. Reciprocal. So can anyone tell me what's a reciprocal? 廖彦敏. Reciprocal. Yes, exactly, reciprocal. So, if you look at this demand curve, because this is a straight line, right? This is a straight line. So, every point has the same slope. Okay, every point has the same slope. But, can you tell me, is the elasticity all the same along this line? Okay, let me repeat this again. Because this is a straight line, right? So every point has the same slope. The question is, can you tell me whether every point has the same elasticity? Okay? 吴佩妮. Every point has the same slope over this line, right? Demand curve. What about elasticity? Is it the same or different? Excuse me? Different. Why? Because 1 over slope is the same for all the points, right? But each point has different prices and different quantity. So even though it is a straight line, right? The elasticity is different all along the line. So now let's get to how to calculate the elasticity from this diagram. Okay, so let's try this. You've got to remember this. Okay, so we have okay, we try to calculate the elasticity of point A, okay, with the formula here. So what's the formula? Elasticity is equal to dq over dp and p over q. Okay, so you can check it, this F, okay? So we want to know the elasticity at point A, okay? But we don't have a demand function. Suppose if we have demand function, we can get it with differentiation, but then